welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you.
Well, welcome back once again, and I want to let you into a little bit of a secret around here, just you and me. This is one of those dishes that I love. I mean, I really like it. It's kind of a little bit of elegance on one side, which is the sauté side of it, and marination and a little balsamic vinegar and all this kind of stuff, and then rough-hewn vegetables just clunked together and the sauce drizzling down the side, kale on the thing. Does that sound okay? Look, this is what it looks like actually on a plate. And it's the sort of thing that if you actually get cracking at breakfast time and do the marinade at breakfast, just shove it together quickly and close the fridge door. When you come back, you've done all the sort of the work and you can just get it done in a matter of minutes. Okay, just a few colours to go here. And I've, by the way, in the new book, I've put all of these drawings in here so that you can colour your own ones in and have fun. But at the same time, I've actually put in the time and that it takes to cook and how you'd put these things together in which order so that you can actually get everything arriving at the same time, hopefully, so that you really enjoy it. And I've got curly kale on the outside, wonderful vegetable when it's not overcooked, and root vegetables poking through the whole thing. I mean, it looks terrific. I mean, I can't colour it in that well with what I've got here, but it's, oh, fun. And a little parsnip in there as well. If you've never eaten a parsnip, this is the time to engage with a parsnip. Never thought of that, really. Okay, come along, let's see. Root vegetables are just fabulous things, and we'll pop into the produce department and have a look at it a little later on. But these are the ones that I've chosen for this time. A yellow Finnish potato called Yukon Gold, if you like. It's a beautiful yellow colour, see it in a moment. This very white colour with purplish on the outside, this is a turnip, and it's a great taste. The carrot, of course, with which we are familiar, and a parsnip. This parsnip looks almost as if it's sort of a pale cousin, doesn't it? But it has a lovely sweet flavour to it and is very nice indeed. Oh, okay, so we'll put all those together, and I've got a steamer going on the heat here. We're going to steam that for about 12 minutes, but parsnips take just a bit longer, so we'll show you how it's done. First of all then, the parsnip and the turnip rather, these can be cut. And it's perfectly all right just to, you know, bash through these things. I want little sort of cubes out of this. So there we go, little cubes. And fairly even size, but it's going to be crushed anyway, so it's really not that important. We've got those turnips on one side. I've got 8 ounces of turnips and 8 ounces of carrots and 8 ounces of parsnips. Now this parsnip, have a quick look inside here. And you see there is a heavy root there. Well, when it's very heavy, you simply cut either side of it and put your thumbs in there and it'll pop out if it's a very heavy root. I promised that in the supermarket section. I just want you to have it now. All right, so that is also chopped up. Now this takes, as I said, about 6 minutes longer than carrots take. And so I want to get that on just to start with. And very interesting part about this one is that if you've got a stack and steaming device, that's one with more than one level of steaming, then you can get those into the bottom. First of all, they take the extra 6 minutes, so get those closer to the heat. And then this is the most remarkable plant that you might not have seen. This is called summer savory. And it's dried. You can get it in all supermarkets in the dried form. But in the fresh form, it's really terrific. Looks like rosemary. It isn't. It's got nice little spikes to it. It has a lovely lemony kind of flavour. And it's planted between rows of beans. and it keeps the black fly off. And then they took it back, the farmers, and they brought it, their plant back and put it with the beans, and it was lovely together. So isn't that nice? Defended by and then helped by, you know, at the same time. I like that. All right, so that's on first, and then we'll take just a few scattering of those. Got several different things here. A little teaspoonful of the summer savory over the top, a little bit of freshly ground pepper over the top of that, and put the next layer on there, and then the carrots can go on, and the turnips can go on, and I've just got one extra little piece of carrot to bash in there. Again, because it's going to be mashed, just at least do it by half-inch pieces. That should be fine. And pop those on. Now, potato. Here is the yellow potato. You haven't actually caught up with this yet. Look at the color of that as a potato. It doesn't look real, does it? And yet it is a wonderful, waxy taste to it as well. It's as if it's been pre-buttered. And it has the most wonderful taste-texture combination. Look at those as a fabulous mix of vegetables at the moment. They're all roots, and they all have a wonderful thing in common, which you'll find out in just a moment or two. And a little salt and pepper over the top of that, and we can then put just another drizzling of this summer savory. If you can't get summer savory and you don't want to go to that trouble, a little thyme, a little marjoram on the top of that still do fine. Lid on the top, so you see you've got the extra time for the 6 minutes down there, 12 minutes here, going well. All right, marinade. Now, a marinade, this is what you could do at breakfast time before you sort of go out and then come back and expect everything to be done. And it's really simple. Here I've got 1 clove of garlic, which has just been finely slivered. And this is root ginger. You know what that looks like? There's 1 teaspoonful of root ginger, which has been grated. Looks like this. This hunk of root ginger here. And it's, you just cut a little slice off, or you grate a little piece of it, and you glory in when you're shaping it like this, and the smell comes up, and it's just terrific. And this is lemon thyme. Now, lemon thyme has this wonderful lemony thyme smell to it. Crush a little bit and get to know the herb. By doing that, it's just, I think it's going to be one of the great herbs of all time then. So I'm going to put that in there and get a full teaspoonful of that. And also a bay leaf. And you just crumble that bay leaf up and drop that in as well. Now, the vinegar side of it comes from balsamic vinegar. This is very dark and very rich, and it's been soaked in many different wooden barrels, probably for about 10 years, and it comes from Italy. And look for it, balsamic, as in balsam. And it has I mean, this is really eating. If you've never tried it, please get a bottle. Go for about 10 years. Don't go for the 25 or the 50 years. That's getting a bit much. All right, gets very expensive. So that's put on one side, and then we come to the meat. Now, the meat is in the deep freeze. I get this. This European fridge, it goes the other way around. And this I put in the deep freeze just to be able to get a nice, easy cut on it like this. Cut the extra fatty bits off. I don't mean that's all fatty, but I just want to get it out of the way. And here you can go through and you can cut this just over 1/4 inch in diameter, that's right, so that you've got 4 pieces. Now this is it, that's 2 ounces of meat. That's a portion. And you say, oh, come on, Graham, come on, you're kidding. Not really. You wait till you see how this actually gets together. You put that then into the marinade, and you've got the 4 pieces for other people, 16 pieces altogether. Toss it all around, put it in the refrigerator, cover it up, bring it out when you come home. And it's had 6 or 8 hours of soaking in the top, and the outside part of the meat has soaked this in, 1/16 of an inch all the way around, and it's gone in. Won't go into the middle, but it's there. What you do then is you just simply drain off the juices. Now, how is it that you put in such a small amount of juice and yet get this amount of juice out? Well, it's, the meat's a 70% moisture, and so it's been doing its little bleeding bit. And so what you've got is really raw meat juices there mixed up with the balsamic vinegar. Now you could be in trouble because it's got to be boiled, come on. Otherwise, your little bugs in there and start breaking out and you get terrible trouble. So get half a cup of a dry red wine. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon, and this is without alcohol. You know my decision on that one. And put that in, but that's because your decision can be yours. Now, you see how it looks when the two combine together? It's got a nice deep color there. Because that has got raw meat juices in it, that goes straight in there. And then stir that in. Now you'll see that some of those juices, because they're meat juices, are coagulating now, so it looks as if it's lumpy. But I want to boil this, so I've just got that on the heat to boil it. On this pan here, on the heat, 1 teaspoonful of oil. You're getting used to this now, this teaspoonful of oil business. It's really all that's necessary just to get a good color on things. I really noticed that recently. I went from 1/4 of a cup in my old days down to a tablespoonful, and then eventually down and down and down as we've got to know each other. Just take this and spread it out on a paper towel. Now, sorry, Al Gore, but you know, I've been doing a lot recently to try and save trees, and hope you don't mind. I know I could use the towel, but I thought of putting the towel in the wash and wondering what Trina would say if this balsamic vinegar towel got in amongst the socks. You know, I thought, well, I could sort of pick up a sock and sniff it and say, "Oh, darling, what have you done to my socks?" or something like that. And then we'd have got a new thing, and Procter & Gamble would put it out, and we'd be famous. All right, so where's the little tongs? So what you do, when you've dried off the surplus amount of the marinade here, you just drop it into the pan, piece by piece, with that tiny little bit of oil there. And this is the saute. This is the basic technique. You have a much larger piece of meat, of course, and be sauteing in exactly the same style. Just drop it down into the pan, and we just go ahead. Now, I'll tell you, I'll do this, and we'll go off and I'll show you just exactly, or we'll show you, right, exactly what kind of root vegetables you can have as an alternative to the ones that I've got in here. Okay, over to you. Thank you, Graham. Well, here, root cellar. This is something like our root cellars of old, but this is the department that you come to. Usually all the roots are combined together in the produce department. So next time you have a look, think about this one. You can actually get a rather nice thing called a turnip, or you can get a thing called a rutabaga, which is what I would like to refer to as a Swede, frankly. A parsnip, which is great stuff. Obviously carrots, you know, these are wonderful things. A potato you won't find normally here because they're always out, and they shouldn't be in refrigeration. And then a parsnip. Now, I gave you the first parsnip, but there seems to be another parsnip and a sweet potato. Now, here, just a few things about this. If you think this is the greatest parsnip you've ever seen, you're wrong. Because what you can do, to show you about this one, you have to really cut through it. It's got a very heavy core in the center. I'll show you how to get this out in a moment or two. But if you have to buy it, it's a bit wooden if you, the very center thing is very hard. So if you want tender parsnips, only ever get parsnips about this size here, okay? I have a 7.5 size glove hand, so if that gives you any idea, that's the size of parsnip, which is sweet, very intriguing thing. If you like the sweetness of carrots, you're going to love that. By the way, you know, on this whole thing of carrots and beta-carotene, this rutabaga here has got more beta-carotene in, obviously, than this, which is the Swede, which is the turnip. So you can see that just by looking at it. And if you really want to look at things, this has got even more, you see. Now, what you need beta-carotene for is just as protection against cancer, some of the free radicals running around. Free radical isn't something to blow you up, it's actually something you read. Okay, now, all of those things go to make this wonderful dish, but the great knowledge about this one is, what's that got in it? I know, you know, potassium, and you need that as in balance to sodium, and it's very important in diet. And everybody looks at this and says, that's the thing to get for potassium. But there's as much potassium, and a little bit more, actually, in all of those root vegetables. How about that? Do you know that, Graham? Over to you. Well, That's what they call in television, throw to the other fellow, you see. We did it. Oh, well. Did you know that about the potassium? I didn't. Okay. Now, here the meat is going beautifully. This is almost coming off just wonderfully there. And so the next thing is to have a look at the mushrooms. Now, we got mushrooms here, and those are the regular mushrooms. And instead of cutting those in the normal kind of shapes that we normally do, those are cut quite thinly because they want to be cooked really quickly. And there's 8 ounces of mushrooms. Make it convenient. Pan on the heat here. Another teaspoonful of oil, no more. And just drop those in. And you know, just a little while ago, I tried lemon juice only instead of just a little oil as well. Not quite as good, but if you put a squeeze of lemon juice on top of mushrooms, I don't know, somehow they really do go well together. So just squeeze that. We've got about a tablespoonful of lemon juice is poured over the top there. Just sprinkle it on, half a lemon. Gets a nice acid sort of feeling going like that. Turn the heat down underneath the meat there. That glaze and everything is just perfect. And now on top of the mushrooms, just the rest of that little bit of summer savory on the top. And a little bit of the freshly ground pepper again. And that's fine. Okay, now we just put a lid on the top and let those sort of soak through. This is where you can toss things to your heart's delight and it doesn't go all over the stove. All right, saute. Now what we do is just simply take this sauce, which we're creating here. Remember that one? That's the strain marinade. And with 2 teaspoonfuls of arrowroot, pour on just a little slosh of red wine. And stir that until there's not a vestige of a lump left in it. And pour that then into the top of that. Now that's going to turn that just a little glazed, and gradually that will actually turn out. Let's get that up in temperature just a little bit. Now let's turn our attention to mash these vegetables, and this is what I love. I love the way this comes out. Here we get the vegetables off the top and throw those down into it like that. All right, so those are the first lot of vegetables. Make sure I've got them all out. And then what you do is you would also take off the parsnips and then fill the first layer with curly kale. I mean, that has been very well washed. Never try and skimp on the washing with kale, because kale can be a magnificent vegetable, providing it takes about 3 minutes to be able to do that, providing it is well and truly washed. Okay. Now, we've got here the parsnips behind me. For a moment, I nearly missed them. And just crush those down. Now, this is a kind of pogo stick arrangement, which it's a very handy masher. I don't want to make a solid mash. I want to keep the pieces in their separate position. That's great. Okay, that's come to the boil, and that's fine. Let's build it, shall we? All you do now is take these mashed vegetables and build yourself a kind of mountain on the side. Remember, this is casual dining at its best. Oh, I love it. Look at that. I mean, it's just full of goodness. Then you take the mushrooms and their sautéed mix, and you just drop them on top of the meat there. And we just take that meat up and we put a little of that meat on the top, nestling it in so that you've got 4 slices of meat per serving, mingled with the mushrooms. Then you can just pour that sauce down on top of the rest of that dish and stir that in together. Look at the color of that thing. And just drop a little of that on the top surface so that it glistens. Perhaps a few little scatterings of the greenery on the top. And then, bingo, you're ready with the kale. And look at that kale. Look at the color of that kale. That is eating. I mean, truly wonderful food. Oh, just, I'm sorry, a little freshly ground pepper on there, and we're ready. Let's go eat. Now, you've been out all day, but you came back and you just whizzed that around quickly, and there's just a little bit of meat there compared with the amount of meat that would be on here. This is a smoked pork dish with a fine puree made of peas and beans and vegetables as well. Somehow not as rough and peasant as the other one, but basically the same concept. Look at the difference in the numbers that actually come up as a result of that. 865 calories for the classic, 267 for the one we've just sloshed up. Fat, only 6 versus 46. Carbohydrate, 35, which is down a bit. We only got the potato in there, you see, just one. And then 18% is the calories from fat instead of 48%. Big drop of 30% there. Cholesterol, 153, that's half the day's requirement. Sodium, 246. Right down on sodium, you might need to have a little bit of a freshly grated salt on the top of it just to be able to freshen it up just a little. I wonder if that's really necessary. Let me just get a whole slice of that. It's crisp and crunchy on the outside. That, oh, kale. That's nice. I'm sorry. Mustn't speak with your mouth on. Oh, don't you like kale? So it's nice and green still and hot. I love it. And it's got real texture to it. It isn't cooked until it's sort of pappy. This is rough and ready, elegant at the same time. Remember that sauté dish? Try that sauté, and in these pans you can turn that meat and it's perfectly crusted on one side and very elegant. Okay? Try it. Neat idea. I thought that it might be rather neat if we had a small chat about the sizes of the amount of meat, because if you're a meat and two potato person, or Dad is, or your husband is, I mean, whoever you know is a meat and two potatoes man. I've never made a meat and two potatoes woman in my whole life, but there you are. I was coming from England, I'm a Brit initially, right the way through to New Zealand, and I landed in Omaha, Nebraska, of all places, at the Sac Air Base. I was in the Air Force at the time. And they had in the officers' mess, or the club, or whatever it's called, they had this 35-ounce steak, and it was on a hickory plank or something like that. But the big statement was, if you can eat the meat, you get to keep the plank. Sorry about the accent, but that's the way it is. And I was really striving for this. I've been brought up with bits of meat about this size in England, and I'd never seen a piece of meat 35 ounces, 2 pounds in weight. So I did it. I mean, I had a gut ache all the way through to New Zealand, but I did it, and I kept the plank. Now I've lost it. I don't know where it went to. But anyway, I really tried. Here's the point. If you eat a 35-ounce T-bone, like I had there, you're actually getting through 3,240 calories and 246 grams of fat, when maybe 60 is as much as you need in one day, and 840 of cholesterol, which is twice as much anyway. So if you go down to a 16-ounce steak, I mean, people do still eat that. That's 1,495 calories and 105 grams of fat. But if you go down to 7 ounces, like the filet mignon, now you're getting into ballpark. 532, 34 grams of fat, 172 cholesterol. If you beat that out flat and only serve half of it as 3.5-ounce serving, you're down to 266 and 17. But what we did in this dish was we took 4 pieces of pork tenderloin, 94 calories, 3 grams of fat, 53. Now, if you're trying to get a system going in which you're going to eat something like 60 grams of fat a day, and you made an allowance for this, but of course you want to be able to have food that fills you up and satisfies you and everything else, but does one have to be filled up with meat, which has so much cholesterol and so much saturated fat in it, when we could be filled up with roughly hewn vegetables like that? Very satisfying experience altogether. I think that if Dad is doing this, or the man of your life is doing this, hey, here's a good chance. Why don't you try this dish on him? See what he says about it. It's meat and several veg. Why not? Maybe it will be a really turning point, a real turning point for him. And he'll be fit and well and wonderful and excited about food, and hey, you've got a major breakthrough on your hands. An idea? Just another one to add to the Minimax Memo. Well, I tell you what, the flavour of that is profound. It's a marinade, it's just delicious. Oh, it's straight out of the pan. Something about something when you get a nibble in the kitchen, isn't it? And it's all yours, and you're going to do the washing up, but there's something for the cook's taste. Till next time, God bless.